Yes, it's not always easy to see, but so many teachers, Muktananda being one of them, that had had devotees living celibate lives, only to later find out after being celibate for 10 years, had been having sexual relations.
Yeah, it
And it's
was one of the pretty common things that people were discovering in the last century, right?
so why proclaim to be celibate?
Because it's part of being the perfect guru. And
But is it
people
really
who
is it
subscribe to that approach, that tradition, they have to be perfect. You know, it's a burden on the teachers as well as on the students.
is it really
I mean,
necessity for the teacher to be celibate? I mean, or is that or can do the students have to be celibate too?
well, sometimes it's taught that way, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and then when the teachers do stray from the path, then it's described as being the tantric way or whatever.
Right.
And we've been through that in a previous interview. I think that it's just good to be honest, and I think it's very refreshing that we're now finding a lot of peer-to-peer communications across the lines between the traditions, and especially among individuals who have been on the path and are coming on the path. And, it's not all that mysterious, to tell you the truth.
Mm.
Everybody has a human nervous system, obviously, and the human nervous system is the center of all spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just a matter of how you go about unfolding that. And it doesn't have to be wrapped up in a lot of ritual and, esoteric secret things. And it doesn't have to be, turned into this perfection, and the teacher has to be perfect, and the student has to be subservient, and all this. I mean, there's a reason for certain structures. There's no doubt about it. But I just think there's as much risk in going to the highest level of structure as there is to going to total anarchy. And I think the truth and the balance is somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm. We don't have a lot of time left, but should we talk a little bit about what constitutes the end of suffering?
Yeah, and I think it's embedded in what we've been talking about here. There is always going to be pain, physical pain. That's just part of being incarnated in the body. But suffering is a different thing. Suffering is when the consciousness is identified with the pain.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if my foot hurts, right?
Right.
But if I make a story of it, like, oh, my foot hurts, and it's because of my bad karma, because I did this and that and the other thing, and it's like, woe is me, and I don't deserve this, and all of that story is the suffering part, and that's in the mind, and it's in the emotions, and it's now these thoughts and emotions may happen, but as a person becomes more the witness and more in that ability to discriminate and develop dispassion and unity, as a person comes more into that state of consciousness, those thoughts may still happen, but you know what? They're objects, just like the foot that hurts.
Mm.
So it's like, oh, geez, this whole story's going on about how I don't deserve this sore foot, but that's just part of the pain, and you just are able to let it go. And so the end of suffering is really the direct result of the second line in the self-inquiry book, which is dawn of the witness. Mm-hmm. So with the dawn of the witness, mm-hmm. you really are guaranteed the end of suffering, not all at once, but as a gradual process that develops with your neurobiological evolution through your practices, and also through your psychological evolution through self-inquiry and stillness. So, but I think the answer to your question is there's pain and there's suffering. Mm. We're never going to get away from the pain, but we can transcend suffering, most definitely. And this was, I believe this was the second of the great noble truths, of the Four Noble Truths of the Buddha. The first noble truth is that there is suffering in the world, and the world is suffering. The second noble truth is that is that suffering can be eliminated. And
yay!
so, or maybe it was the third noble truth. Don't quote me on that.
At least it's
because
one of them.
I'm not a Buddhist. But the point is the Buddha saw suffering, and he saw that suffering could be eliminated. And the way it is eliminated is by becoming that universal self, that universal beingness, which is beyond suffering.
And that is attained through all of the teachings that we have been speaking about, right?
Yes, very much so. I mean, I think most of us come to the spiritual path because we're suffering.
Yes,
wanting more. We want to stop hurting. We want happiness.
Now we're out of time today, Yogani, but let's just give a brief idea about what we're going to be talking about next month, because there's 2 more shows left. One is Bhakti and Karma Yoga. And then
that's right.
The last show will be the 8 limbs of yoga.
Right, and the Bhakti and Karma Yoga is a very practical one, and it really has to do with the beginnings of our path and how we develop our spiritual desire and acting on that, which is the karma side of it, the action side of it. And then how karma impacts our life and how we can transform that. Fantastic.
Now, your website, if you'd like to give that out.
Yes, it's aypsite.org. That's aypsite.org, and everything is there, including all of our previous interviews, which can be found on a link on the top of any page.
Fantastic. Yogani, thank you so much again for this interview, and I look forward to doing Bhakti and Karma Yoga with you next time.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ann. It's been a pleasure, and the Guru is in you.
Namaste. For more information about shows you've heard on my show, Truth from the Source, go to drannwest.net. drannwest.net. Thank you for joining us on Truth from the Source. To contact Dr. Ann West, send your email to drannwest@aol.com. My new show on Glastonbury Radio can now be heard weekly on Thursdays at 3 p.m. and Fridays at midnight Greenwich Mean Time on glastonburyradio.net. Otherwise, I'm on KKCR on the first Sunday of the month.